China's systematic expansion across the world's oceans represents one of the most ambitious geopolitical strategies in modern history. Through a combination of artificial island construction, strategic port acquisitions, naval expansion, and economic leverage, Beijing has positioned itself to potentially control critical maritime choke points that carry the majority of global trade. To understand China's maritime ambitions, we need to step back and see the bigger picture. China's President Xi Jinping announced the world's largest infrastructure project, the Belt and Road Initiative, in 2013. But this isn't just about building roads and railways. It's about creating a global network of economic and strategic influence that stretches across continents and oceans. Over 90% of global trade travels by sea. Every smartphone, car part, and bag of coffee beans likely crossed an ocean before reaching your hands. Shipping lanes are the lifelines of globalization. Whoever controls them controls trade itself. The maritime component of the Belt and Road Initiative, the Maritime Silk Road, focuses on ports, shipping lanes, and logistic hubs. Through state-owned enterprises like COSCO Shipping and China Merchants Group, Beijing has poured billions into acquiring stakes in over 100 ports across more than 60 countries. This isn't just about trade, it's about control. Take Europe for instance. In Greece, the port of Piraeus was struggling after the 2008 financial crisis. Enter COSCO, which acquired a majority stake in 2016 for about 368 million euros. Today, Piraeus is one of Europe's busiest ports, handling millions of containers annually, many from China. This investment turned a faltering asset into a gateway for Chinese goods into the EU, giving Beijing leverage over European trade flows. These moves create a network where China can influence shipping rates, prioritize its vessels, and even gather intelligence on competitors. Moving to Africa, China's footprint is even more pronounced. The port of Djibouti is a prime example. In 2017, China opened its first overseas military base there, adjacent to a commercial port where Chinese firms hold significant stakes. Djibouti sits at the entrance to the Red Sea, a vital link to the Suez Canal. By investing over $14 billion in infrastructure, including ports and railways, China has made Djibouti economically independent. This dual-use facility, commercial and military, exemplifies how Beijing blurs lines between trade and defense. Now let's talk about the Indian Ocean, where the string of pearls theory comes into play. Coined by US analysts in 2005, it describes China's chain of ports encircling India, from Myanmar to Sudan. Chinese companies have invested billions, including a deep-sea port and oil pipeline that bypasses the Strait of Malacca, a potential choke point for Chinese shipping. But the most infamous examples involve debt trap diplomacy, where loans lead to asset takeovers. Sri Lanka's port is the poster child. In 2007, Sri Lanka borrowed $1.3 billion from China's Exim Bank to build the port. When revenues fell short and debt piled up, Colombo couldn't repay. In 2017, it handed over a 99-year lease to China Merchants Port Holdings for 70% control in exchange for debt relief. Similarly, in Pakistan, the Gwadar port under the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor is another pearl. China has invested over $60 billion in CPEC with Gwadar as the crown jewel. Operated by China Overseas Port Handling Company on a 40-year lease, it gives Beijing access to the Arabian Sea, close to the Persian Gulf. Pakistan's ballooning debt to China, over $30 billion, raises fears of similar concessions if repayments falter. Gwadar isn't just commercial, it's near the Strait of Hormuz, through which 20% of global oil passes. In a crisis, China could use it to project power, threatening India's energy security. The People's Liberation Army Navy has transformed from a coastal defense force into a global maritime power in just 2 decades. China now operates 370 warships compared to America's 296, with projections showing China will reach 435 ships by 2030, while the US Navy may shrink to 294. The commissioning of China's third aircraft carrier, the Fujian, in September 2025 marked a crucial milestone, as it features electromagnetic catapults similar to the most advanced US carriers, enabling the launch of heavier aircraft and early warning systems. Submarines, destroyers, and amphibious assault ships enable power projection far from home. Exercises in the Indian Ocean and deployments to the Gulf of Aden demonstrate global ambitions. China's military expansion in the South China Sea is where things get truly alarming. Claiming nearly 90% of this vital waterway through the 9-dash line, Beijing has built artificial islands on reefs, equipping them with airstrips, radars, and missiles. Fiery Cross Reef, once a submerged rock, now hosts a 3,000-meter runway capable of landing bombers. These outposts extend China's reach by hundreds of miles, turning the sea into a fortified lake. China's port network creates multiple layers of strategic advantage. Economic leverage by controlling key ports, China gains significant influence over global trade flows. They can offer preferential treatment to friendly nations while creating obstacles for adversaries. This economic leverage often translates into political influence as host nations become increasingly dependent on Chinese-controlled infrastructure. Intelligence and surveillance ports are intelligence goldmines. They provide insights into trade patterns, military movements, and economic activities. Chinese-controlled ports can monitor which ships are carrying what cargo to which destinations, invaluable information for both commercial and strategic planning. Potential military applications. While most Chinese port investments are officially commercial, the dual-use potential is obvious. Ports can be converted to support naval operations, provide refueling and resupply capabilities, or serve as staging areas for power projection. Beijing's footprint approach is a possible means to a similar end compared to traditional military bases. The scale and implications of China's maritime expansion haven't gone unnoticed. China's influence on global ports has seen more setbacks and progress in 2024. With a net decrease in the number of ports it owns outright or operates for third parties, suggesting that international scrutiny is having an effect. Many countries have implemented stricter foreign investment screening processes, particularly for critical infrastructures like ports. The European Union, the United States, and other allies are conducting more rigorous security assessments of Chinese port investments. China's maritime expansion has fundamentally altered global naval dynamics. The strategy exploits the gap between democratic decision-making processes and authoritarian efficiency, allowing China to act with singular focus while other powers debate responses. Current developments suggest continued expansion. Satellite imagery reveals ongoing construction on artificial islands. China is negotiating new port agreements in Africa and Latin America, and the opening of Arctic routes presents new opportunities for Chinese influence. The success of this strategy will largely depend on how the international community responds to China's growing maritime influence and whether alternative frameworks for global maritime governance emerge. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe.